with women. Why is that? I'm going to talk about that in a second. We're also going to talk about the 4 big lies that you might be telling yourself if you're a perfectionist. So before I go into perfectionism, I want to just review what we've talked about this week and encourage you to go back and watch those videos. Day 1, we talked about reframing your present reality. So if there's a situation in your life, this exercise allows you to recognize that perception about that situation is everything. Furthermore, you can choose that perspective. Day 2, we talked about emotional labeling and just how powerful it is when you have a situation in your life where you have mixed emotions or you can't even identify your emotions. Being able to label them allows you to choose your emotions, allows you to not layer on emotions about the emotions, and gives you that perspective to have control over your emotions. Day 3, this was a big one, we talked about the ability to say no. And in particular, how saying no to something or someone allows you to say yes to something else, even if you don't know what that something else is. Day 4, yesterday we talked about the power of nostalgia. Now, nostalgia sometimes gets a bad rap, but in this exercise we really talked about how it can be empowering and motivating and can also give you insight into maybe what's lacking in your everyday life and how you can bring that back into your everyday life. Okay, perfectionism. So like I left you with a little cliffhanger, women seem to struggle with this a little bit more than men. Now, that doesn't mean men don't struggle with it, but I would say across the board, my female clients really struggle with perfectionism. And this is why. A lot of us get into what I call the good girl mentality. We start getting praise from a young age for being good in school, being good behavioral things. We start getting really used to praise. And we like it, and everybody likes it. But what it can do is it can make you not want to lose that praise. And so perfectionism is messy. Getting better is messy. And so perfectionism doesn't allow us to sit with that messiness because we want that praise. Does that make sense? So for women, we often struggle with that because we really like when people like us. And getting better doesn't always include that, or at least in our perception it doesn't. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why perfectionism, before I get into the 4 lies, let's talk a little bit about why perfectionism holds us back. So you've probably heard the term that great is the enemy of good. So we have great on one side, perfection, or at least really good at something, and then we have kind of just getting started on the other side. And in between that is super messy, it's super uncomfortable, and it's very public often, and it involves a lot of failure. Now this can go back to the growth mentality stuff that Carol Dweck talks about, if you're into that, but just from a blanket standpoint, that space between starting something and getting good at something is just super uncomfortable, and you've experienced that in your life. The problem is that then we start avoiding that uncomfortableness because it can be kind of embarrassing and it's just not a fun place to be in because you feel like you're bad at everything. But that's a part of it. And I will say that you don't get to avoid or circumvent that space. Everybody goes through it. Everybody is uncomfortable and everybody fails and it's messy and it's chaotic and it's embarrassing and you don't get to avoid that. There's no way around it. So that takes me to our lies. The first lie is that you're a perfectionist. And really what I see with perfectionism, at least in myself and in my clients, is that perfectionism is really avoidance, masked into a positive thing. Avoidance, like I said, of being uncomfortable, of taking risks, of looking silly. So perfectionism is really avoidance. It's avoidance of the messy part of improvement. The second thing is the lie we tell ourselves is that we will be ready to do something if X, Y, Z happens. Then we'll be ready to move forward with whatever it is that we're talking about. And I'll give you some examples in a second. The third lie we tell ourselves is that everybody else is doing it so much better than us. Because when we see people doing whatever it is we want to do, we often see only the good stuff because that's what everybody's showing. And that's what's public often. We see everybody's great and we compare it to us just getting started in something. And we don't see all the messiness that that person went through. And I'll talk about that in a second. So that's the third lie. The fourth lie is that we tell ourselves that if we do it right, whatever it is, if we find perfectionism, then everybody's gonna like it. And in my experience, actually the opposite is true. I feel like the more I can do it right, the more I can do it authentically me, the less it's gonna resonate with everyone in the world. It's gonna resonate with the people that it resonates with. And so expecting that, again, that good girl praise is never gonna get you what you want, because you're never gonna please everyone. And I know this sounds super obvious, but so much of the time we really do want everybody to like us. We really do want like pom-poms and praise, and that feels good. And we're not gonna please everybody. Furthermore, we often in our society or just in general, we don't praise the mistakes. So for example, for me, my first webinar, the audio cut out like halfway through. Well, I don't get people saying, wow, great job on the webinar where the audio cut out halfway through. And so I'm not gonna get the praise that I want. Now, if I do a webinar later and I've had that experience, I get some positive feedback and that feels good, but in that messiness of getting better, I didn't get that. And you're not gonna get that. And even when you're really good at something, you're not gonna get that from everybody. Okay, so those are the 4 big lies. So I just wanna talk about some experiences I've had with people I met or myself or clients, and I want to talk about something that you want to move forward with. So if I had a nickel for every time someone came up to me and said, oh my God, you write for Huffington Post. I really want to write. I have a book that I want to write. And I say, okay, well, are you writing? They say, no, I got to get my book proposal together. Well, do you? Or do you just need to write and start a blog? That's free. That takes 10 seconds. So again, I have to have this book proposal to do this writing, and you don't. Okay, so this is part of the lies of the things that we need to do to be ready to move forward. A lot of times people come up to me and they say, oh, I want to start a business. I really want to teach yoga, for example. And I say, okay, well, are you teaching yoga? And they say, no, I got to get my website together. Well, no, you don't. You don't actually need a website to teach yoga. So for me, when I started my business, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't have an MBA. I was working with athletes first. I didn't have a sports psychology degree. And I didn't really know what I was doing, truth be told. And what I did is I took that first step and I called up people I knew and I said, can I come speak to your team? I didn't have a curriculum. I had no really public speaking experience. Again, I didn't have a degree. I had no website. I had no business cards. I had nothing. But I did that first thing, because this is the thing. So many people say, okay, I want to start a business, or I want to do this, and this, and I need to go back to school. I need to get my website together. I need to do this, and this. And again, that's just avoidance. You don't need all those things. That's not to say that at some point you might decide you need those things, but that's not generally the first step. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, taking the first step. Again, a lot of people they say, okay, I want to speak in public, or I want to be able to speak in presentations and work. And they think that other people that are speaking are naturally good at it. For me, I was never naturally good at speaking. There's some people that are, but I was not just naturally gifted. I got a speech coach. I did it about 1 billion times. I got feedback from people. And again, that messiness of getting better is so uncomfortable. There is nothing worse than talking in front of people and then people not liking it or getting negative feedback. That's a really shitty feeling. I'm gonna be totally honest. But to get to great or even good, you cannot avoid the uncomfortableness of getting better. And if you are, then maybe you don't want it that bad, or you're just simply avoiding it because there's pain involved. Okay. So one of the things my coach tells me is her little mantra is 60% and go. And what that really means is whatever you have in your mind, So it's a book, it's a business, it's a hobby, maybe it's an art project that you want to do. At what point, you're never going to feel like it's ready, okay? Let me just take that off the table. You are never going to feel like you're ready to do something that just doesn't exist. That's the whole point of doing something new, is because it's new and it's uncomfortable. So 60% ready, that's your goal. 60% ready. You don't want to throw out just any shit to the world, but you want it to get to 60% ready and then put it out there. Because this is the other thing. You have to put something out there to ever improve. Whether that's art or writing or a business, you have to start so you can get feedback and iterate. You can change it. If you don't ever put it there, it's sitting in your house or in your mind and it's not getting better. So really that great thing that you want to do, you're not moving towards that. And again, it's that avoidance mentality. So we lie to ourselves and we tell ourselves that we're a perfectionist when really we're just avoiding risk. We're avoiding the messiness of getting better. We're lying to ourselves and saying, I'll be ready when. That's the big thing we say. I'll be ready when I have the website, I have the MBA, I have enough money, whatever. We lie to ourselves and tell us at some point in the future, we're gonna be ready. You're ready right now to do something, okay? The third thing we say is other people do it better. Well, that's true, but you're also looking at people's, I want to say finished product, but you're looking at something that's iterated and gotten better over time. And the other thing is they're not going to do it how you do it. So what you offer doesn't exist in the world yet if you're not putting it out there. And the fourth thing we lie to ourselves is we say if we do it right, everybody's going to like it. And that is the biggest lie in the whole entire world. Not everyone is going to like it. And if you're in that good girl mentality that you think, I really like praise, everybody does. That's not a bad thing. But if it's keeping you from taking that first step, then it's the perfectionism paralysis. And we need to get out of that. So Kayla, Liz, hi guys. Okay, this is my challenge to you. First of all, we have the journaling, LindseyWilsonCoaching.com. It's also, you can see it on the Lindsey Wilson Facebook page. Day 5 is perfectionism. So what I want you to do is the question on this is pretend you're telling your best friend all the ways you are not measuring up. What would he or she say to argue with you? So again, we're taking that different perspective and we're shedding a light on our life and saying, you know what would someone else say about this? Okay. And then what I also want you to do, so this is the journaling exercise, what I also want you to do is, remember we said 60% there and go. So in your life, there is something that you're waiting to do. There's something. I don't know what it is, but there's something. It's the book, it's the business, it's the hobby, it's the art project, it's the singing, it's the standing up and doing comedy, it's the, I don't know, traveling the world, quitting your job. I have no idea what it is for you, but there's something that you're waiting to do because you want it to be ready and you want it to be good before you start. And I'm saying today, 60% and go. What is the first step you can take to move towards that? You're not going to circumvent the messiness, so you're not going to be able to jump to that perfect thing that you want. What is one step that you can take today? Just one. One thing that you can do. The first step. It doesn't have to be something big. It just has to be moving in that direction. Otherwise, you're playing it safe and you're just living in your little life and you're not going for the thing that you want to do. So go for it. What is the first big step that you can take? And I want to hear from you. I want you to comment in the comments below, what is the first big step you can take? Now this is scary. I know that. I know some of you are not going to write the first big step you're going to take because you don't want to say it out loud. You don't actually want to take that first step. I get it. It's cool. But for those of you that are brave and thinking, you know what? There is something that I want to do and I've been avoiding it and I want to just take one step in that direction. Share it in the comments below. I can guarantee you about 99.9% of the people listening to this, that's going to resonate with them and it's going to give them support. Everybody's struggling with this stuff. So let's get perfectionism out of the way. Let's take a first big step. See you tomorrow, Facebook Live. Go to LindseyWilsonCoaching.com to get your free guide.